Welcome to the Hump Day Hangout podcast by Semantic Mastery, where we answer your local SEO questions every week at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm Adam Moody, and my partner at Semantic Mastery, Bradley Benner, will be sharing his decades of expertise based on not only helping others, but running his own agencies and businesses in the space. If you'd like to join us live on YouTube each week, just go to www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. If you'd like to ask a question ahead of time, go to the same link, www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at any time and submit it there. Don't forget, you can get the Semantic Mastery Local SEO Toolkit for free at the same URL. Okay, let's get going with this episode. Hello and welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts episode 555 or 555 as most normal people would say. Today is the 16th of July 2025. We've got a couple of announcements, some cool stuff. One thing that already happened but you can still get access to and check out, and then a couple of upcoming things. And then we will jump into answering your local SEO questions. So first of all, I wanted to say if you missed out on the webinar, one, you should be on the Semantic Mastery email list if you're watching this video, whether it's live or replay, and you can head over to semanticmastery.com, enter your email address. We generally send tips about local SEO, and then as well as things like webinars that Bradley does with either people we know very well, or products that Bradley already uses and wants to share. So with that, this is kind of both of those. So Bradley on Monday was talking with Rob Beal about Content Maxima, and I will put the link up in the chat. You can check that out. Basically, a roadmap for making your just basically improving your content. I don't know, Bradley, do you want to talk real quickly about it, or should I just send people to the replay and tell them to check it out?
Well, check out the replay, yeah, regardless. But I can give a quick summary of it. It's an amazing tool. It really is. It's a marketing tool. I think people will see it as a keyword research tool, and there's a kind of a component to that, but it's not actually keywords that it's researching anyways. It's the relationship of search phrases or, entities essentially with the seed term. It does one hop and two hops. It's based upon distance graph and all of that. So it's how closely related are the entities to the seed term. So it'll show tier one related entities and in tier two, which means those entities that are most closely related to the tier one entities, right? And so it's a way to identify as the language models see the relationships between these phrases, these entities. That's what's important, because it's not keyword based anymore, right? Language models are taking over and are being referenced for processing data for everything. And so if we understand how the language models see entities and the relationships, the associations between them, et cetera, then we can use that to our advantage. And so it's not really a keyword tool to begin with. It is a kind of a research tool is what it is. And the first two modules are really about, search queries, keywords, entities, et cetera, and how to structure content, which of the algorithm trigger words or phrases are the most important, and that you should be using when you're trying to convince the language models of what your content is about, that sort of thing. But where I think the tool is actually even more valuable, more powerful, is that the follow-up, the other modules are the marketing modules, which queries all these language models as well, 63 of them, to build buyer persona profiles for all the different types of buyers that would be interested in the products or services, or likely interested in the products or services that industry provides, that sort of thing. So that then it develops the content for speaking to specifically that buyer persona, depending on which stage of the sales cycle they're in. And so the methodology that they built into this application is that there's 7 stages in the sales cycle. There's pre-sale, sale, and in post-sale. And there's a total of 7 stages. And so it can not only develop the buyer personas, but also the content for each of the specific stages that the buyer persona could potentially be in, so that you can really get your messaging dialed in very, very specifically to a particular buyer persona, et cetera, for the products and services that whatever you're promoting for the industries that you work in. I think it's incredibly powerful, the amount of data that it returns, and it does it very quickly. When I first had access to this tool many months ago, before it was ready for kind of public consumption, so to speak, it was it could take 15, 20, 30 minutes sometimes to run some of these reports because of the amount of data and the language models that it's querying and all this kind of stuff. But they've improved it to the point now where it's like you don't wait more than 10 or 15 seconds for a report. So incredibly powerful. I've been using it a hell of a lot lately, like even just identifying which terms to use in anchor text for link building. This is a fantastic way to do that. So there's a number. I mean, I think it's one of the cool. And what I love about it is its simplicity, guys. Somebody commented already on the YouTube replay about, well, I got some prompts and stuff that I do that. That's cool. That's great. Not a lot of people are going to learn or going to take the time to build all their own prompts. Where I see a lot of other tools fall short is they're too complicated, too complex. You have to go in and enter a whole bunch of deep data. And it's just, this is super simple and they kept it that way intentionally. If you go watch the webinar replay, you'll hear them talk about that. It's like the field inputs are, it's one or two field inputs per tool. And there's a total of, I think, 7 tools in the application. And it's one or two field inputs per tool, and that's it. And it makes it super easy. One application or tool builds on upon the other. And by the time you're done running through that tool, you basically know like how to target an entire market and how to market to any of the potential customers in that market, et cetera. It's really, really powerful. And then there's additional stuff that they're going to be adding in for the top level, top tier users, where they're building their own kind of custom GPTs and things like that, so that then you can just take all this data from the Content Maxima tool, feed it right into your own AI chat that you're training, and it will then be able to produce the content specifically for your buyer personas at the stages of the sales cycle that they're in. So I think there's a lot of benefit to this, guys. I really see this as being more how we should be moving in the kind of digital marketing SEO space is into this type of marketing. And I think this tool is a great, great way to get started in that. So anyways, hopefully I did a good job promoting the
Nice.
webinar.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got a lot of views in it. I think people really enjoyed it. So, thanks for doing that, Bradley. And
Yeah, man.
good to see Rob again. And so we've had a lot of good feedback from that. So I posted the link. Check out the replay. Like I said, if you're getting emails from Semantic Mastery already, check your inbox. It is in there. So I'm going to take a quick break, say hello to Chris, and ask Bradley how the weather is, and then we'll wrap up with a couple more announcements and then jump into it. So, Chris, how you doing today?
Doing good, enjoying the cool down of the weather a bit, so more productivity and more productive, more work getting done. So
Nice.
he's in the lab.
Man, good for you. I am sweating my butt off. I don't know. Bradley, how about you? I imagine it's nice and toasty down south.
It is, but I can't complain right now because I got water turned on Monday afternoon for the first time. I hadn't had water in a month. And so I finally got water turned on. Like I had to my I had an issue with a new house that I bought, the well, shallow well. It just, long story short, couldn't use the well anymore. So I had to get connected to county water, and there was never the connection made. So I had to pay the connection fee, the excavation work, plumbing, all that kind of stuff. And it took a month. But I just had it turned on Monday, which was actually a couple of days ahead of schedule. So even though it's hot, I can shower now again at my house instead of have to go to the YMCA. I can cook, I can do dishes and laundry and all that kind of stuff that you totally take for granted until you don't have it. So I'm excited about that. But you're right, it's been stupid hot here. And I'm just glad to be inside with some air conditioning. So
Awesome. Well, we got two more things wanted to talk about real quick before we answer people's questions. One, wanted to remind people that we are going to be able to be taking on a few more people for semantic SEO for done for you services. So Bradley, can you just remind people what that is real quick? We're still fleshing out exactly how we're going to be able to onboard people. It's going to be kind of a graduated thing where we're able to offer this, but I bring this up. We talked about it last week because people are pretty consistently, we get asked, I would say at least once a week, do you guys build any of this stuff? Do you offer any of the services, whether it's agency owners who want to start white labeling, or people who are just getting started and don't necessarily have the time or energy to do it themselves, or want to have it done right from the get-go and spend their time more on the sales prospecting side of things. So like I said, we will be sending out some more information on that. You'll definitely need to be on the email list to get the first crack at that. But Bradley, can you remind people a little bit about that, and also just tell them what's coming down the pipeline here in a few weeks with the product that you've been putting together as far as the advanced training?
yeah, all right. So the white label services, I just posted the link in chat for the Google Doc. Right now, that's just a Google Doc, just summarizes the different services that we have. And it's, the white label services we are building our team up more now because we got the DHA program. We're almost going to we'll be launching, I'm working on the SOPs right now to be launching these sales and fulfillment phase two, sales and fulfillment, which will be graduates from phase one will be going through and likely using our white label services as they're dialing in their sales pitch and their offers, that kind of stuff. Because that's what I teach them to do, is to focus in on the marketing and sales side of things. Let us handle fulfillment until you've dialed your presentation, your offers and your sales pitch in, and you get higher like consistently get high conversion rates. And then if you want to bring your fulfillment services in-house, I'll give you the SOPs because that's how I train my team. So, but in the meantime, I want people focusing on revenue generating, which is marketing and sales and not the fulfillment. And so we are offering a white label services. And as we are preparing to ramp up our personnel in order to take on a larger volume of orders, we wanted to kind of stress test by opening the doors and offering this to a broader audience for anybody that's interested. So I posted the link in chat. It's a Google Doc that just summarizes our services. You can go sign up for or register for a free account at semanticseo.pro. It's -DASH as in dashboard, dash.semanticseo.pro. You can go register an account if you want, log in, check out the pricing, things like that. If you have any questions, reach out. I'm happy to jump on a call. If somebody has some questions, they want to see demonstrations of what it is that we do, that kind of stuff. Feel free to reach out, schedule a call with me, and we'll jump on. But that's just available. Want to make it available for those that want, if anybody's having trouble fulfilling for their clients or they're not getting results, try our services. Let us show you what we can do. I can tell you right now, one of the things that we do is if you submit a campaign to us, we are doing on-page optimization for the GBP. We're also doing content marketing, but on external branded blogs. So any sort of brand extension, not directly on the money site. And then we do all the link building, citation building, press releases, all the kind of stuff that we need to do to help build the branded location authority and help to promote the company and perform better in search. And now also to perform better in AI search, because we're not just targeting SEO anymore. With our content marketing that we're doing, it's to also trigger language models to, more likely reference or recommend the company for somebody that searches a query that would be relevant to that business. So these services are for assuming that you have decent on-page, because we don't do the on-page optimization for the self-hosted site. But if we take on a campaign, or if you want to submit a campaign, and we take a look at the on-page, we're always going to look at the on-page factors before we, proceed with the campaign or starting the campaign or anything else. Because if I identify things that appear to be done poorly or need improvement, then I'm going to bring it to your attention. And, we have consulting where we'll provide consulting and recommendations like full audits, et cetera, on what needs to be done in order to improve the on-page optimization. But we're always going to recommend that, because if we just take on the project with some, problems with on-page, then it won't respond as well to our efforts. And then you're going to blame our services as not being effective. And so that's oftentimes not the case. It's usually some sort of an on-page issue. I'm not saying that our services get 100% results all the time. That's not true. There are times where we have campaigns that are challenging, that just don't perform well, no matter what we do. But in many cases, it's on-page issues that need to be addressed. And if they don't be resolved, the campaign doesn't respond appropriately. So those are there. If you guys want to check it out, you can read the summaries. Like I said, don't hesitate I don't do any hard sales tactics. If you have questions, jump on a call with me. I'll answer your questions. I can demonstrate what it is that we do. And if it makes sense for us to work together, great. If not, hey, no harm, no foul. It won't hurt anything to have a call. So check it out. Let us know if you've got any clients that you need help with. Try our services. Remember, guys, as long as you can mark up our white label services 50% to 100%, you've got a business right there without having to fulfill. Focus on the marketing and sales. Focus on how to create compelling offers and solutions for a particular business industry, and then focus in on just selling those services. Allow us to fulfill for you what we can. Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Last thing I think you mentioned was the local SEO schedule.
Yep.
We're going to come up with a better name, but the local SEO schedule is we're going to be launching a product, guys, in a few weeks. That is a combination of training and done for you services, meaning we're going to provide like the full SEO schedule, kind of how I implement my SEO for local SEO clients, how I do it for my local SEO clients, the exact sequence, the exact services that I provide or that I execute, the tasks that I execute in the specific order, and the timeline in which I execute them. And it's the exact same process, guys. This is how you get scalability in your business, right? You build a system, a process, and then you follow that, right? You can modify it as things change, but you duplicate that process over and over again. It creates consistency and quality. And scalability. And so that's what the local SEO schedule is. After, so many times people asking like, hey, what is the exact sequence of steps and timelines and everything that you do your SEO campaigns? And I finally put that document together. So we're developing it, fleshing it out a little bit more. We're going to put it in multiple formats. It's going to be a combination of training and done for you services, so that those of you that have more time and less money, that you can do the training side of it, so you can learn how to do these things on your own. For those of you that have more money and less time, there's done for you services that are our services that will point to, so that you can just have those tasks executed in the proper sequence, in the proper order, proper timelines, etc., and achieve good results as well. So be on the lookout for that. In a couple of weeks, we should, few weeks, we're going to have that one available too.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think, guys, that is it. If unless anybody has anything, let's jump into questions and go from there.
Let's do that. We got a number of questions. Let me grab the screen and we'll get right into it. All right. First question's up from Alex. He says, Bradley, having service pages and location pages links placed in an accordion folding element for decluttering the page still pass the service location association the same way if links were visible? Yes. I know that Google does crawl accordion dropdowns, but will the link association be passed on? Yes. Yeah, it will be. As long as the element is within the main content body, so within the body tags of the page, then yeah, Google's reading it, and it's still treated as a contextual link. And in fact, remember, I recommend applying H tags, headings, it'll be typically H3s and or H4s. So H3s and sometimes also H4s in the hierarchy of that internal link element block that I recommend that you insert into service pages, right? So for example, if you have, or vice versa, right? So if you have on service pages, you should have an internal link block that is going to list and link to the location pages that service is available to, which is likely going to be all of them, right? And then on location pages, you want to have an internal link element, which is just a table or whatever that has links, so columns and rows, or however you want to format it. It doesn't really matter. But what I always recommend is that you have that universal internal link element that's a block of internal links for lists and links to location pages. That's going to be inserted into each service page. Then you're going to have an internal link element, a block of internal links to service pages that will be universally inserted into each location page. That's that association link, right, between the service and all of the locations that service is available to, and the location and all of the services that are available at that location. You see what I'm saying? So you're creating the association. Now, if you have top level and like pages and then supporting pages, top level categories, supporting categories, whatever, however you want to talk about it, then that may change how you build the hierarchy of the internal links within the element block. Again, I typically just recommend a table, but you can, like, if you have a lot of location pages or a lot of services, then it may make sense to do tabbed content or accordion menus or something like that. All of those are still within the content body. So of the body tags of that page. So they're still treated as contextual links. But what I was getting at with the headings or H tags as anchor text is you add more significance to a contextual link when it has an H tag as an anchor text. You understand? Because it's telling Google this is more important. So it's adding some significance to the link. And so if you use proper it's going to be subheadings, right? I always recommend an H2 as a heading, right? Remember, an H1 is going to be a page or post title, and a heading is an H2. Subheadings are going to be H3s, 4s, 5s, etc. So an H2 heading would state, this service is available in these following locations, or these services are available at this location. Do you see what I'm saying? So the H2 is going to introduce that internal link block element of internal links. Depending on which page it is will determine the phrasing of that H2. But then the internal link element, if there's top level and supporting pages, right? Top level services, supporting services. So for example, HVAC. If it is an HVAC contractor that does HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, like a lot of them do, then on a location page, you would have we provide the following services in, Pikeville, Kentucky. And then it would say at the top, HVAC, an H3. So there'd be 3 columns, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, right? The top would be an H3 anchor text link that goes to the top level service page for HVAC. Then supporting service pages would be like air conditioning, central heating, indoor air quality, right? Those types of things, which would be H4s underneath the respective HVAC H3 heading in that table of internal link element or internal links, excuse me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Then the plumbing top level service page, then like plumbing repair, plumbing pipe installation, drain cleaning, those are all supporting services. So H3 to the plumbing services page, H4s to the supporting services pages that fall under the plumbing category. Do you see what I'm saying? So, and the same thing could be done with location pages if there is a hierarchy to location pages, meaning perhaps you have county pages and in-city pages. Well, then you would list counties at the top of the column headers. If that makes sense. All I'm trying to say is, and you don't have to overcomplicate it. I'm not telling you to build complex silo structures. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying if the build requires that, that is how you would structure those internal links. Those links are going to be counted, whether they're in accordion menus, drop downs, tables, tabbed content. It doesn't matter. They're in the content body of the page. Okay, hopefully that's clear. And the links are more significant with the H tags with proper markup, proper usage of H tags, right? The H2 is the heading that introduces the elements that are supporting that H2 statement, right? And the H4s, which would be supporting pages that are supporting the top level service category or location category, if that makes sense, depending on which type of internal link block you're optimizing. All right. Good question. Next one says from James, do you use any software to text people who book appointments a day before meeting to decrease before the meeting to decrease no-shows? Yeah, it's high level. I mean, all my appointment booking, my appointment calendars and all of my notifications, appointment reminders, all of that is all done through high level. So yes, absolutely. We do a confirmation message when the appointment is confirmed because I don't auto allow appointments to be auto confirmed. People submit an appointment request. I go review them, and then I will confirm the appointment if it's acceptable, or if there's a conflict, scheduling conflict, which happens a lot. Then because I got multiple calendars for different businesses, different services, et cetera, and they don't all communicate. I've never been able to get all the calendars to communicate properly, never. And so that's part of the reason I do everything on a manual approval is because I have to like go look at my calendar for those to see appointment request. Does it conflict with anything that I've already approved? And if it does, then I'll send a message out from in high level. It's just a template. It's just a template. So I can very quickly just, change the schedules. Say, hey, I've got, it's just a snippet. So I just go in and click that and it says, hey, I've got a scheduling conflict on the date and time you requested. I have the following three dates and times available in Eastern time zone, EDT. Will any of these work for you? And it just lists, 3 dates and times and then lets them pick something else. But anyway, once I confirm the message, it sends a confirmation or the appointment, excuse me, confirms, it sends a confirmation message, email and SMS. It also sends a Google Calendar event to them as well via Google Calendar. So they get 3 notifications, an email direct from the high level system, an email from Google Calendar, and an SMS. Okay. And then they get a reminder, an appointment reminder 24 hours ahead of the appointment. And then I believe another one, it's either 1 or 2 hours ahead of the appointment. So they get a confirmation message and then 2 notifications, one 24 hours before and one, it's either 1 or 2 hours before the meeting. I think it's 1 hour before the meeting. For my tree contractors, it's 2 hours before their appointment, they get notification. But I think for my own business, I set it for an hour. So they send notifications to contacts that are supposed to be on a call with me an hour ahead of time. That's clear. And I get a notification too at that time. So it just reminds me, hey, you got a call coming up. Okay. And all that's done via high level, man. You don't need additional apps for that. If you're using high level does 90% of everything that you're going to need. It really does. I tried for months to not have to use Instantly as the cold emailing app. I did. I tried for months, 5 months. I spent trying to get high level to work for cold email because it used to 4.5 years ago when I started the process, we used high level for the cold email app. But last year or two, it would have been 2 years ago now. The inboxing sucked. The high level doing any sort of SMTP through high level, it would automatically go to the promotions tab or spam or not deliver at all, like in Gmail. And so I tested a whole bunch of different apps and many different things in high level to try to resolve it to where we didn't need another app. That was my whole goal, was so that we could keep everything for the DHA in high level. Unfortunately, that wasn't it wasn't possible because some of those functionalities within high level are inferior to some of the other apps that where that's all they do, like Instantly. Well, Instantly used to just be cold email, but now they've, integrated CRM and all kinds of other shit in there too. So it's made it more complicated. Going back to what I was saying at the beginning of today's Hump Day Hangout, when I mentioned like the problem with a lot of tools is that they become overcomplicated. The same thing with applications. That's why I like Content Maxima, because Content Maxima right here, this is it. I should have demoed this earlier when we were talking about it. It's got these different tools here, and they're all very, very simple. Like I said, it's usually like one or two. Some in some cases, maybe there's three field inputs, but very, very basic. Where you just enter in a term and then you hit go. And so that's why I was saying like, Instantly uh, was very simple, and now it's becoming a lot more complicated. Part of the reason high level scares a lot of people off, right? And it's completely understandable. Look, in the DHA program specifically, the coaching program, we provide done for you high level accounts for program members if they want it. If they have their own high level account, they want to use their own high level account, we give them the snapshots that have all of the integrations and the workflows and automations and everything built into it, so that they can, have all the functionality in their own high level account. But I tell people that don't already have a high level account, don't get your own high level account right now. Use ours. It's not because it's a profit center. We do have slight margin on it, but that's not why I offer it. I offer it as a way to reduce friction for program members to not get stuck in the tech. High level is like the Swiss Army of marketing, a Swiss Army knife of marketing automation tools. It's got so many damn features and functions, and they're rolling out new features all the time, stuff that like I've not even scratched the surface of what can be done with high level because of the speed with which they come out with new features and stuff. But I don't have time, the bandwidth, or the desire really to learn all of those things. And so, and I understand where we've had in the beginning, before we offered our own high level account as an option, where managed high level accounts, where we deploy the accounts and things like that for the program members, so that they don't have to focus in on learning high level as much. You still have to learn high level, but it's in a very specific way that the SOPs have all been developed for. And with my coaching and guidance, you're going to learn what is necessary very quickly without getting stuck in the tech hurdles of high level and all of the things and functions and all of that stuff. And so I'm bringing that up because it's like high level is incredibly complex and advanced, more so than, that's what scares a lot of people off because they get lost in the tech. And I completely understand that. And that's part of the reason why we offer the done for you high level or managed high level accounts while people are in the program. And then at the end of the coaching program, you have the option to either continue using our managed high level accounts. It's $200 a month, or you can go get your own high level agency account, which is the bare minimum that you will need, which is $300 a month. And then we can transfer all of your sub accounts into your own high level account when you're ready. But that's the whole point. I'm telling you all of that, James, is because high level is, can do pretty much almost everything. There are some other apps that will do things better than what high level does, but then you're adding the complexity of additional apps and trying to integrate them, right? And so we tried to reduce that as much as possible by eliminating the need for integrating apps with high level, by trying to keep everything in high level as much as possible. That's part of the reason why I use high level websites now instead of WordPress, right? We're also now, even our clients, like, I still use an external social media posting app because it allows us to manage all of our accounts from one dashboard. But we're even getting all of our, like, I'm getting my clients now in on using like the social media planner or social planner or whatever in high level, because it integrates with, like we use OneUp for the agency, but for like individual clients and stuff now, I'm even getting my team to just actually go into their sub account and use the high level social media or social planners or whatever, because it reduced costs and reduced the need for logging into different apps and all that kind of stuff, right? It's just all done in high level. So I think high level is incredibly powerful, guys. We've got a lot of apps and everything snapshots that we developed and automations. I was, again, working on the SOP today for this year for listing delivery. This is the start of the phase 2 program for sales and fulfillment. So anyway, moving on. Next question. It was a good question, James. Next one is Susie. He says, do you have any type of contracts for your link building? The rest of you? Nope, I don't work on contracts. Never have. Now, I'm not going to say never, but I never liked working on contracts for 2 reasons. Number one, if I think it should be pay for performance, pay for results, right? If I'm building links for a client and the links are producing results, they should want to continue buying links from me. If my links aren't producing results, they should be able to cancel at any time. They should not be locked in to using my service if they don't feel the service is working for them. Likewise, and this is part of the reason why I don't do contracts, I don't want to be forced to work with a customer or client that turns out to be a pain in my ass because I'm contractually obligated to work with them. You see what I'm saying? I'm not kidding. We just had a lady that booked a call with my salesperson for semantic links. So she's calls herself a marketer, right? A local business marketer. And she booked a call with my sales guy. He had a call with her. He told me in the message about the call that like it was a strange call and blah blah blah. So anyway, long story short, she ended up booking a call with me, a 15-minute support call with me for semantic links. I got on a call with her, had a quick chat with her, told her, look, I can't give, because she was asking me for recommendations about this campaign and that. And I told her, I don't do that. I need to look at data. Here's the link to competitive link analysis form that you can request a competitive link analysis report for each one of the campaigns you want me to review. I'll send you the campaign analysis plus my review, in a video format, my review and recommendations of the services that we provide. You're not obligated to buy anything. But if you decide to, the competitive link analysis report plus my video review and recommendation will tell you exactly what I recommend from our services, and I explain why I think those are going to be effective. So I try to explain that very thoroughly so that you're confident in understanding why I made those recommendations, and that you will feel comfortable in proceeding with purchasing links from us. So always try to be very thorough in those types of analysis and explanation. So anyway, she submitted the order. Well, she purchased, she checked out, but never submitted the order details. You have to, when you check out from my system, you check out and then you log back into the dashboard, or you get a notification email or whatever that has a link that says, make sure to submit your details, and you go back into the dashboard and there's a great big blue button next to the order that says start order. You click that, it takes you to the intake form, and it's either a form that you fill out or it's a file that you download, complete the file like an Excel file with the details, the cells, there's instructions, and then you resubmit that back. And that is when you submit the information, is then when it triggers for my team to start, start the work, whatever it is. We don't even get notified that an order is ready to start working on until the order details have been submitted. Do you understand? This lady never submitted a damn thing. And so I followed up with her a couple of days later and said, hey, please make sure you click the blue start order button from the dashboard. I even linked to the dashboard screen. We can't start this without the order details. So she replied back, a day or two later with, hey, I'm looking for an update. I ordered this, 5 days ago, and it said it was going to be delivered in 5 days. I replied back, you'd never submitted the order details. How can we start an order when we don't even know what we're auditing, what we're reviewing? You need to submit the details. Anyway, here's the short of it, right? We went through this back and forth. My support, my executive assistant Hazel, she does some support. Our support manager for Semantic Mastery is also doing a little bit of support work for me now too. So Chris Greenhow. But anyways, Hazel, my assistant, she replied back too, even with step-by-step instructions. Like, click on this link, go to the dashboard, click the start order button, complete that form, right? Or the instructions that it says to submit your order details. She ended up sending us a shitty message like, this is ridiculous. Because, by the way, it was a magic sign-in link, guys. You know how a lot of applications now don't let you sign in with email and password. They make you submit an email and then they send you the sign-in link. That's pretty normal in our, today's current environment, like online world, right? It's pretty normal. That's how my system works. So even with the step-by-step instructions, click this link, sign in. She sent us a screenshot back with cussing us out. Like, this is bullshit. Who are you? What is wrong with you people? I keep getting a sign in, a place to put my email, but nowhere to put my password. This is bullshit. What is wrong with you people? No kidding. And it's a magic link, sign in. And so anyway, I just refunded her punk ass. And I sent, and I really wanted to reply back and just say because she cussed out my support staff and everything else. And I really wanted to jump in and, call her out and let her know how stupid she was. But you don't do that, right? As a business owner, you don't do that. So I didn't. I just said, hi, whatever your name is, refund process, regards, and left it at that. But the point that I'm trying to make is that is precisely the type of, because my support manager, Chris, or our support manager, Chris, who is doing he's helping with some support stuff at Semantic Links right now. He he responded to me in Slack like he was going to try to, try to save the sale. And I said, no, 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 I don't want anything to do with this woman. You see what I'm saying? Because this is clearly going to be a problem. No matter what, it's going to require a lot of additional support and attention, and she'll probably never be happy. And so that is precisely the exact example. That is a perfect example of contracts. You see what I'm saying? Let's say that I had had that call with her and I had convinced her to close her on some sort of a sale. She made it. She made a purchase. So I did close her on that call. It was for something very minor, but let's just say that I closed her and it was something that was under contract. Now I would be forced to work with her. You see what I'm saying? And I don't want that. And so if we're not producing results for our clients or customers, they should be able to cancel. If I find that the customer is unreasonable or somebody that just communicates poorly, like is aggressive with their communication or just, is combative, which happens, forget it. I don't want to work with you either. I don't need your money that bad. You know what I mean? Like, and so honest to God, I don't like contracts at all. To answer your question, I've not used contracts. In my career, I've used them a couple of times, and it's typically when the client requires a contract. And I've learned now to turn those types of offers down, those types of engagements down, because I do not want to be locked into a contract. I look at it this way. If I'm doing a good job, you should want to continue paying me. And if I'm not, you should be able to cancel. But likewise, if you're a pain in my ass, and I tell clients that. I tell, by the way, semantic links or SEOs and agencies when I get on sales calls, I tell them the same thing. If they ask, they say, "Well, what type of contract or what type of commitment are you looking for?" I always tell them, "Look, I don't work on contracts. We do month to month. I always ask for a verbal commitment for a minimum of 3 months for us to show you results, but you're not locked in any. You're not contractually obligated to commit to those 3 months." And I tell them exactly what I just said. Look, if we're not producing results, you should be able to cancel. But if you turn out to be a pain in my ass, I should be able to cut ties with you as well. And they usually giggle at that point. You know what I mean? So, but again, I try to be transparent about that type of stuff. And that's why this lady, I just refunded her after 3 attempts of trying to show her how to. The only out of 3.5 years I've been running semantic links now, this was the very first time that somebody just could not figure out how to submit. And so, do you think it's my system is the problem, or do you think it was her? The answer is very clear. And so I already said, if she can't even figure out something as simple with even step-by-step instructions on how to submit an order detail, she's always going to be trouble. And who the hell wants to work with somebody like that? Certainly not me. And by the way, those types of people, they will never be successful, right? Because it's never them. It's always somebody else's fault. Why the world is against them at every turn, right? That's how they see and view the world. That's clearly how she viewed the world. You see what I'm saying? You can't help people like that. And if you get involved with people like that, all it's going to do is cause stress and hurt, stress and, you know, um, just additional stress and problems for you, right? Unnecessary stress. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. All right, moving on. Alex says, "Hey, Bradley, if the root domain is for a concrete site, would it be wise to create a subdomain and make it about decks if I want to target deck keyword in the same area?" I don't know. You could test that. I've not tested that. I usually going to try to keep domains and subdomains, closely related. It may work. You may want to test it, Alex. I think I know which Alex this is. I think you just ordered a bunch of competitive link analysis reports. I've done 3 of them today already for you, if that's the correct Alex. But in any case, whether it's the right Alex or not, yeah, I've not tested that. It's worth a test, but I don't know whether that'll work or not, to be honest with you. I don't see why it wouldn't. Subdomains are treated as standalone sites, but there's still an association because of the domain. See what I'm saying? So it's not that those are completely unrelated, right? They're still construction, home service based stuff. So you might want to test. I mean, I don't have an answer for you because I've not tested that. I tend to try to keep subdomains and the root domain all very, very closely related, but it certainly could be tested. You know what I mean? The whole point of doing the subdomain thing, guys, is because the more sites you add, so the more subdomains you add to a domain, if you're doing, link building and all that other kind of stuff for each campaign that has its own subdomain, the domain benefits and accrues like a cumulative effect from all of the subdomain activity. And so it ends up becoming a very powerful domain over time, so that when you deploy subsequent subdomains, right? So other campaigns on other subdomains, they tend to perform a lot faster, a lot quicker, because they're benefiting from the authority of the domain overall, if that makes sense. And so that's why I do that kind of stuff. I've been doing that for years and it works. It works really well. The disadvantage is you end up with, a bunch of different sites to manage. And you don't ever want to do anything stupid to catch a penalty on the root domain, because if you catch a penalty on a root domain in this sort of a setup, then all of the subdomains are gone. You've lost everything, right? Everything will be penalized. But if you just keep this root domain as something clean, non-spammy, you don't do anything really aggressive, then if you were to catch a penalty against a subdomain, it's going to isolate to that specific subdomain, and that's it. It doesn't affect other subdomains. Okay. Costco membership says, what happens if a site drops and blames your links? Since you don't have a contract to cover liability, are you worried about any of that? Well, no, but there's a disclaimer on my services, my sites that state if you're using our services, you understand that we're not guaranteeing results. SEO is a volatile business. What we are producing, what we provide are services that have historically shown, to produce results, but we're not guaranteeing results or none of that. That, by the way, that's a great question. Just so you know, it's not from link building. I mean, good luck. They can try. They can try all day long. But that is precisely one of the reasons we do not do on-page optimization, where for any of our white label clients, we don't. I get asked all the time, especially after delivering a full SEO audit, where I give them all of the instructions. They say, is there any way that you or somebody on your team can do this for me or for my client? Absolutely not. There's no way, there's no way that I'm opening up that can of liability worms, right? That can of worms of liability for getting access to a client's account. Do you see what I'm saying? Remember, my client is the SEO professional or agency or whatever. So my client is the agency. It's their client that then they would have to give us access as the white label provider to their clients' accounts, their website, etc. And guess who would get blamed if anything were to happen to the website during the time that we had login credentials? Whether we did it or not, guess who would get blamed? We would. So that is precisely why it's our policy. No, we will not. Absolutely not. Will we do any on-page optimization execution for anything other than a GBP? I'll do it for a GBP, but not for a website. And so that to answer your question, like with link building, we put disclaimers on our services to say, like, we're not guaranteeing anything. SEO is a volatile business. What we are selling are things that have shown to produce results consistently, but there's no guarantee to any of this, and you understand that by using our services essentially. As far as on-page stuff, that's precise. If I were to get involved, which we won't, but doing on-page, getting access to clients' accounts and all that stuff, we likely would have some sort of a legal agreement that would have to be signed by all parties to make sure that it would protect us from any potential lawsuits as a white label provider, right? Brian says, if you start with a new domain as the root domain, how long until the subdomains and root begin to rank versus using a ranked root domain? I'm not sure I understand the question. If you start with a new domain as the root domain, how long until the subdomains and root begin to rank versus using a ranked root domain? Again, I don't understand. If you already have a ranked root domain, I don't understand the question, Brian. Forgive me. If you could restate it in a way that may be a little bit more clearer to me, I'll try to answer your question. All right. I'm going to move on, guys. We'll jump back in a minute to that. I'll come back to that in a minute, Brian. All right. So moving on. I want to use some of that root domain's power to rub off on the subdomain. Smart or no? Yeah. I mean, you can try that. Again, different, service categories. Try it. I talked about this in the mastermind, actually, when the example that I mentioned earlier on today's Hump Day Hangout, when I was talking about internal link elements, and I said, like, for example, an HVAC contractor that does HVAC, electrical, and plumbing, which a lot of them do. Those are three very distinct service categories. And I've talked about testing where you have a branded root domain, but then you would have three subdomain sites, one for each of those service categories. One subdomain for hvac.brand.com. One for plumbing.brand.com, one for electrical.brand.com. Do you see what I'm saying? That way you have three distinct sites that are set up and fully optimized for that specific service category. Those tend to perform. Now, I've not tested that. That was a proposal, a hypothesis. But what I'm saying is I know for a fact, I have tested that the more focused you can make a site, both topically and geographically, the better it performs. Like, you understand that? So the more narrow of a geography you're trying to target with a site, the better it tends to perform. The more narrow the topics of the site. So like if it's a service-based business, the more, if you can optimize a site for one service category, entirely for one service category, and all the supporting services within that service category, it tends to perform better than if you were to have a site that's optimized for three service categories like HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. You see what I'm saying? So that would be something worth testing, would be to like create a brand domain where the homepage, the root domain, is about the brand contact information with links in the menu, navigation menu, et cetera, that link down to each subdomain site. And then have a separate subdomain for HVAC, one for electrical, one for plumbing. And then now each one of those are separate sites. Now you have 3 sites to manage versus one. Well, you got 4 sites to manage versus one, right? Because you got the root domain and then 3 subdomain sites. But again, my hypothesis is those 3 individual sites would perform better than they would for each of the queries related to those than they would be had they all been on one site. You see what I'm saying? So would this work? Most likely. I've just not tested it. So try it again. All right, let me go on to the next one and then we'll come back to the comments. We still got 15 minutes. Bobby says, do you have an SOP on how to use pretty links to create a service area radius? No, we don't use pretty links to create service area radius. We use pretty links to shorten the image URL, but we use a different tool to create the service area radius image. Just go to easylocal.com map radius tool, guys. Just go to easylocal.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can search it in Google. It'll be the first link. But if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see where it says map radius tool. Click on that. So it's easylocal.com/tools/map-radius, right? Go search it in Google. You'll find it. easylocal.com map radius tool or map radius calculator. All right. Then you're just going to put in whatever. I'm going to say Pikeville, Kentucky. That's where I am. Okay. Let's say 8 miles. Click draw map. There's your screenshot. Right. So Pretty Links doesn't do that. All Pretty Links does is shorten the URL from wherever you host this screenshot that you're going to take so that it is a short URL that, you know, you can text, because we host these images in either WordPress or High Level, right? You understand? We create the screenshot images with the map radius, and then we do another one with the local search grid, local search grid tracker or whatever, that's in the same shape. It's the same dimensions and the same shape as what you're seeing here. And then it just shows usually a little speck of green in the middle of a sea of red. And so we use those 2 images as to its problem, agitate, solution framework, right? Here's the problem we identified, or we identified some problems. Here's what those problems are that's agitating the pain, so to speak. And then we have solutions, right? We introduce solutions to them to resolve that problem. And so that's what we do. So the Pretty Links is only to shorten the URLs so that when we send those URLs out to the images, the screenshot images, they're short URLs that look good in SMS text messages, excuse me. Because if you look at the High Level hosted image, like when you upload to the media storage in High Level and you get the URL to that image, it's this stupid long URL. I'm not kidding. It's like, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's stupid. So long, it's dumb. And you got to imagine how many, tens of thousands of businesses and people are using High Level. It's no wonder they have these really long strings on these URLs and everything else. But you don't want to email that or text that, right? Because that's a stupid long URL, especially in a text. It might take 3 texts, right, just to get the URL across. So that's why we just shorten it just to make it, like I use tchq.link, which stands for treecarehq.link. Just like we use smshort.link for semantic mastery. I've got one for my, I've got a number of them. So anyway, just keep that in mind. Map radius tool, easy local. Get your images from that, right? It's free. You can expand it if you want. You can, do whatever you want, but just take a screenshot of that. Okay. Duplicate that in a local search grid report. All right. So back to Brian's question. When creating a new website with future subdomains, the options are for the root domain, buy a new domain, or buy an expired domain with old backlinks. Will there be? Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Brian, for clearing that up. Absolutely. Anytime you can buy an expired domain, it already has relevant backlinks. That's what's important. Not the metrics. Don't look at just metrics. Look at the relevancy of those backlinks, right? Look at the former content of the topic of the site when it was on. It doesn't have to be in the same category, just some in the same category, but as long as it's in a similar or related category, then it should still work, right? That's how we do a lot of our link building, by finding expired domains. And that's why, because they're powerful. But we base everything based upon topical relevance. Yeah. So if absolutely, Brian, if you can find an expired domain that has proper topical relevance, then yeah, that's going to give you a benefit, an edge, right? You'll achieve better results quicker that way. So now I understand your question, and that was an easy one. All right, YouTube comment. How many H2 should you use for entity variants on a location page? The comment was, first of all, thank you for this video about location pages. It changed my view on the kind of content that they should include. And it really makes sense. In your opinion, if the URL is the first touch point, what's the best structure for it? Using that same example. I don't know what the example is there, but I think the question here was, if I remember the question, how many H2s you use for entity variants on a location page? It doesn't matter. What matters is to use the appropriate number of H2s to convey the concept of what you wanted that article or that page to convey. Like, do you understand? Whatever it is that you were trying to accomplish with the content of that page, that determines the number of H2s that you use. You see what I'm saying? Don't use more just because. Gone are the days, guys, where what did we all do as SEOs, right? What was pretty much the universal answer for trying to improve results for Google search, right? Throw more words on the page. That's what, isn't that right? Like that's what we did for years, guys, was we would use tools like Surfer SEO or any number of them, pick them, there are a dime a dozen now, that would go scrape the top 10 or top 20 results ranking for a particular keyword. It would average out all the data from those ranking pages. And it would tell you, meet and exceed what these are doing, and you'll rank. And so it was basically the simple answer that all these tools told us to do was throw more words on the page. Not just any words, the words that we tell you should throw on the page, but just put more words on the page and it will outrank the others. And did it work? Sometimes maybe, but not all the time, right? And so now those days are gone. We don't need to do that anymore. In fact, throwing more words on the page, more H2s, just for the sake of trying to hammer Google over the head with the phrases that you want Google to associate that page with, Google actually frowns on that stuff now, right? Now, because it's looking for efficiency. What is this page about, and how can Google determine that in the least amount of resource usage with the least amount of resource usage? And so the main optimization elements is how Google does that. It's like a shortcut. It's a cheat code for Google to be able to determine what the page is about without having to crawl and analyze all of the content on the page. As far as local, like I said, it may be really competitive industries, it's different, but in local, where it makes sense to have really thoroughly optimized content is for service pages, product or service pages. But the location pages should really be about, who is this brand? How do I contact them or request that they contact me? What services are available at this location? That's it, right? That's all that really needs to be on the location page if you have the site structured properly. And so it's not the number of H2s that matters. It's, are you conveying through the main optimization elements of this page precisely what you want, both Google and now in a broader sense, language models, as well as, more importantly, humans, like the actual visitor, those that are going to potentially execute the conversion goal that you want them to take, whatever that may be. That's who you're really optimizing for, right? Yes, we want the machines to serve our content or to put our content in front of those that are interested or likely interested in those products or services. So yes, we have to trigger the algorithm. Content Maximum is really good for that. But then the content that is on the page should be to convert the visitor into whatever action you want them to take. That's where it determines how many H2s you should have, if that's clear. So as far as the URL, remember the URL is the first touch point for anything, guys. Google crawls the web through links. Well, guess what? So does language models. So links are incredibly important. It's the first touch point. How does Google or any language model find a page to ingest or to crawl? Through the URL. So the URL is the first touch point, which is why I always recommend not over optimizing the URL. I still see a lot of that in the SEO industry. It's not as much as it used to be, but I still see a lot of that. So I always like to de-optimize the URL to where it's just the bare essence of what it's leading to. Do you understand? The URL should give a clue as to what it's leading to, but it doesn't have to have keyword stuffed URL. It can just be like the top level entity that it's, that you're linking to. And that to me is good enough, because I want to focus my optimization efforts on the other main optimization elements where I have kind of more control about it has more influence on what I want Google to understand about the page, right? And so I don't want to use that first touch point where if you have a extremely over optimized URL, which is, again, I still see quite a bit of, then it's almost like the Google bot. I don't know how language models see that, but the Google bot looks at the rest of the page through a tainted lens of over optimization, if that makes sense, right? So you can over optimize very easily if you have over optimized URLs, meaning you can over optimize the rest of the page because the first touch point was already super optimized, if that's clear. All right. Next question. Why do new sites randomly disappear from Google rankings but stay indexed? It's just the Google dance that's been known for years. So using a subdomain is a good option. Subdomains are always good. I've been using subdomains for local SEO campaigns and for all kinds of stuff for many, many years. I like using subdomains. So yes. Jace, I think it's Jace. He's a link building client too. I have a cheap HostGator business plan, shared hosting for my local service area business website. My page speed is about 95 to 100 consistently. I'm still stuck at the top of page 2. Is this undesirable to Google? I've heard that if some of the other sites on the server, casinos, pills, etc., are questionable, yeah, they call that a bad neighborhood. And yes, don't use cheap hosts, man, especially if it's for your own local service area business. If it's for your own business, or if it's client business, right? Or if it's a real business, if you're just testing sites or building sites for link building or for affiliate, even affiliates, if it's a money-making site, which nobody does affiliate marketing anymore, right? Very few people do. But if it's a money-making site, why would you want to host it on a cheap host, excuse me. Get a good host, guys. Hosting makes a significant difference in the performance of the site, and not just how it performs for a visitor, but also for search. Guys, WPX hosting is fantastic. Terry Kyle owns it. The support is phenomenal. I don't do WordPress anymore. I still have a number of WordPress sites, obviously, and manage some legacy clients' WordPress sites, but I try not to build new WordPress sites. I actually just built 2 for Tree Care HQ, a podcast site and a marketing blog. But I try to stay out of WordPress is what I'm trying to say. I don't like using WordPress, but if I'm going to use WordPress, I'm going to host it on WPX, just to be clear. So I would check that out, Jace. Don't use cheap hosts for anything that's important. Any sort of websites that are important to generate revenue for you or for your clients or whatever, put them on good hosts. It's worth the few extra bucks that you're going to spend for a good host. I promise. The support, everything else is worth it. All right. Don't use cheap hosts. I don't use cheap hosts for anything other than for testing. That's it. Chris has any thoughts on the new Google Docs regarding changes to determining local rankings? Not even seen them. Chris, next time, if you're going to reference something like that, it would be helpful if you could point to a resource that would, so that I could understand what it is specifically that you're talking about. Guys, I've been very clear about this. I don't keep up with the updates unless it's brought up to me, or I see something. If I see some major volatility in the campaigns that I manage, then I'll go start digging in to see what's going on. And then I'll, identify an update, start looking into it and everything else. But if I don't see any significant changes to anything, I don't pay attention to that, because I've been doing this for so damn long. If you can get stuck chasing algorithm updates all the time, and I've learned to just filter that out. It's just noise. Google's always doing algorithm updates and changing terms of service and everything else. Unless I see a significant effect, either positive or negative, I don't really care, to be honest with you. So I'm not picking on you, Chris. I hope you understand that. I'm just saying, next time you ask a question like that, if you can point to a resource or something so I could review it, have a little bit of context, then it would be helpful. Right. Okay, guys, right at the 5 o'clock hour. Look at that. Costco says, so that quick service page is enough to protect you from any blame. Like, they don't need to check I understand checkbox or anything. Well, as far as I know, I've not been challenged. Costco. But like I said, as link building, we're not touching any of their assets. Look, let's put it this way. Somebody could negative SEO you, right? So, how could we be blamed for link building? You know what I mean? Like there's no way to prevent other people from building links to a site, right? And so there's no way that we could be blamed for our link building because there could be other stuff being done, right? There's another like could be an on-page issue that causes a penalty that has nothing to do with us, right? So I've never been challenged on that, so I don't know whether that's, legally sound or not, but part of the reason we don't do the on-page work is for the reasons I just described, which is so that we can't be held liable for anything that happens to the website. Everything that we do is off-page work. So we're not actually touching any of their assets, right? We might be building links to it, but anybody can do that. Anybody can do that. So you can't prevent others from building links to the site. So you see what I'm saying? So to answer your question, I'm not an attorney. I don't know. I haven't been challenged on it. Let's knock on wood. Hope that it's good. But as far as if I were to be getting access to other people's clients' accounts, there would be some sort of documentation there or something to protect our ass for sure. Okay. What do you prefer over WordPress, and is there one main reason? John Tanner asked that. Yeah, I use high level sites now because I mentioned earlier on this call, I try to do everything in high level as much as possible in high level. Number one. Number two, WordPress is a pain in the ass. You have to update. Every time I log into WordPress, you've got updates, right? We've got updates. Every freaking time you log into WordPress, there's updates and it gets hacked. If you don't keep it updated all the time, it'll get hacked. How do I know that? I've had so many sites hacked, it's unbelievable. The high level sites, they tend to perform well in local if you structure them properly. I wouldn't, 3 years ago, I'd have told you to run away from high level sites. I've come around 180 degrees on that. Now I say run away from WordPress, right? Because of the maintenance requirements with WordPress and the hacking ability and all the other stuff. High level is a lot more secure. There's no maintenance whatsoever, none. So, if you structure the sites properly, they'll perform well. So I just use high level. But, that's just my preference, guys. I don't care if you guys like using WordPress, by all means, use WordPress. I don't like it because of all the problems I just described. All right, guys, I think we're done. Thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate the questions. Today was a good day. We'll see. I've got a mastermind webinar tomorrow for anybody in the mastermind group. Otherwise, we'll see everybody next week. Thanks, guys.